Hey, this video is about sleeping outside in winter. Yeah, what is winter? Winter is when it's cold. Of course, depending on what country you live in and where you are, winter can be different. For example, right here, it's at night minus 13 degrees Celsius, and at day with the sun, it's around minus 4. So I'm in Europe right now, in Austria, in the Alps, and depending on where you are, winter can also mean like 0 degrees and rain. But with this video I try to cover almost everything, but it's not easy, so it's not a complete tutorial on how to sleep outside. It's just some points that maybe can help you to improve your sleep outside in winter. I also don't want to dive into tactical sleeping outside with cover and concealment and so on. This is more like bushcraft, but you can also use these tips for sleeping outside in tactical scenarios or when you are somewhere where there is danger. Yeah, all right, at first you need to find the correct place to stay the night. I recently also made a video about this, but in snow you really have to watch for avalanche areas, especially when you are in the mountains, when you are like in a flat country. Of course, avalanches are not a big thing, but when you have rooftops nearby, there could be an avalanche from the rooftop. Or when you are in the forest and there are trees full with snow, they can fall down or branches can break off and fall at you, and you don't want to have this. So look for a safe place. Try to avoid deep valleys where all the cold air collects, and find a safe place. Try to not be in the wind. For example, right here I could sleep here in the open field to avoid falling trees or branches, or I could hide inside the trees and sleep there. This could also cover or bring some warmth from the trees, or if you have big rocks that have been hit by sunlight at day, they also give some warmth overnight. All right, now let's say I would sleep right here. As you can see, snow is knee deep. So there are like several options for this. First one is you step around and make a flat ground. Also, you don't have to place your sleeping system on the snow. Or you use a shovel, which is like standard for alpine environment, because you use this when there was an avalanche and you want to rescue someone. So with this, you can really easy and fast dig a hole or a pit where you can place your sleeping system. So I will do this right now. When the snow is super hard, maybe you need a snow saw to saw it. But right now here it's quite soft, so a shovel will do, or even with the feet it will work. Alright, you can also use your gloves for this, but make sure not to make your gloves wet and do this. It is better when your hands get a bit cold and freezing, but then later you will have dry gloves. Alright, now my sleeping place is made. This is not the perfect place to sleep, but it's a good place for me to film. Alright, now let's talk about the gear. Of course, when you sleep outside, you want to have something that protects you from the wind, rain, snowfall, and so on. You can use a tarp, a tent, or a Bivy bag. Of course, there are also like combinations, and you can also sleep outside with just the sleeping bag. But in this video, I want to talk about the Bivy bag, because in my opinion, it's a really nice tool to sleep low profile, and then it's hard to get detected because you're so low to the ground. And with tent, you have more comfort, but it's also bigger and easier to spot for someone who's looking for you. So a Bivy bag is like this, for example. It's from Carinthia, the combat Bivy bag. It's a Gore-Tex outer layer for your sleeping bag, so like almost a rain jacket for your sleeping bag. It protects you from cold wind and also from water. Of course, this is breathable, but not breathable enough to get all the moisture from inside to the outside. So it will have some condensation inside, but you will have to develop a sense for moisture in your sleeping system. But this is like more a complex topic, so I will not talk too much about it, but it's important. Then of course you need your sleeping bag. Here I also have one from Carinthia, a synthetic one. I prefer synthetic sleeping bags because even when they get wet from condensation, for example, or from rain, because sometimes at day it rains and at night it goes down with the temperature really low. And with the synthetic material, you will still have some loft or some insulation, and down can collapse when it's wet. So you will lose your insulation capabilities of the sleeping bag. So yeah, a big synthetic sleeping bag. In best case, you have a sleeping bag which is suitable for your temperatures. Sometimes maybe you stay longer than you expect, or you have read the wrong weather forecast, or something unexpected happens and it gets colder. Then you can carry one of these. This is like an emergency Bivy bag. This is from Mountain Equipment, and it's like an emergency blanket, but like a Bivy bag. And when you carry this, like in your first aid kit, for example, you can put this as an addition to your sleeping bag to get some extra more insulation. Of course, you could also put on some layers, but yeah, it's best if you have the correct sleeping bag. So sleeping bag is inside the Bivy bag, and now you also want to have insulation from the ground, because when you lay in your sleeping bag, there where you touch the ground, the sleeping bag is compressed, and then there is no air between you and the ground, and the insulation is made by the spacing and the air. So then you have no or almost no insulation to the ground, and you can lose a lot of temperature to the ground and cool off. Yeah. When it comes to insulation or mattresses or ground sheets, sorry, I don't really know the English word, there are inflatables. Inflatables are super cool because they are compact when they are packed, and then you inflate them and they have a thick layer. This, for example, is from Climate, and you have some insulation inside, like a synthetic insulation. And with this you can achieve a high insulation grade. It's the R number, and with this it's really high, and it's really good for deep temperature or for low temperatures. And yeah, in some temperatures it's just needed because other insulation often is not strong enough. But problem with these is, as soon as they have a hole, air will come out, and then they have almost no insulation capability anymore, so they can fail. Especially when you are close to a fire, for example, or you sleep inside the bushes with a lot of thorns and twigs and so on, they can get damaged. I had one damaged one time in my whole sleeping outside career. Yeah, often they come with like a stitching kit where you can make a sticker on the hole, but at first you have to find the hole, and it can be super annoying, especially when this happens early in the night. We'll have a super cold night, and this is dangerous. Yeah, what's more reliable and trusty are those standard foam sleeping pads, because if they get a hole, if they get punched or whatever, they still have insulation because they don't lose the air. You can also cut them to different sizes if you want a shorter one for summer, for example. And if you need more insulation, you can use 2 of them or 3 of them and layer them up. Yeah, problem with this is they have a lot of volume. So when I roll this up, it's quite a big roll, and it has less insulation than this. So if I use 2 of them, maybe then it's the same like this one, but it's a lot more volume. Okay, now from the setup. My Bivy bag sadly is too tight to fit the inflatable insulation. It can be good to put the insulation inside, because when the insulation or the insulation mat is on the ground and you sleep on it, then there can come some snow on it and between you and the insulation, and then it can melt and it will get wet and can freeze. So it's better inside. This one fits inside, and when it's inside I can roll this up and make the Bivy roll. I also made a video about the Bivy roll before, so don't want to talk too much about this right now. So if you want a super reliable system, you are likely to use one of these. And when you wrap or roll your Bivy bag, it can be good to place the foam pad on the outside, because this will protect your Bivy bag. And then when you come at your place and roll this open, then you have a good place to sleep. It's really fast to set up and really fast to redo again. And yeah, when it's on the inside, it's better over the day because it doesn't collect any water and snow on it. And it's even faster to set up. But with this on the outside, you can protect your Bivy bag. Okay, now let's set it up and talk about some details. Now I want to get into my system. Let's say sun goes down, I want to go to sleep. First thing I do as soon as sun goes down, I take my headlamp and I place it around my neck, because as soon as the sun is gone, I have no problem with finding my headlamp and it's ready to go. And also all the night I will have this on my neck, because when I wake up, I need to pee or whatever, I have the light easily accessible and don't have to search somewhere on a sleeping bag and so on. Right now I will remove it because I'm sure it will be annoying with the microphone. I mentioned moisture management before, so try to keep as much snow and moisture out of your system as possible. Yeah, some people even carry a brush and brush off all the snow. I mainly do like that and use my hands. Now it depends on the size of your sleeping bag or your Bivy bag, what you can place inside. Because in winter, when nights are freezing, everything which is wet from the day before will freeze, and the next morning you will have a hard time stepping in these frozen shoes, or maybe get in the shoes at all, or in your pants because it's all frozen. So there will be a lot of things that are inside the Bivy bag or even inside your sleeping bag. At first, let's talk about the boots. Sometimes I have to keep my boots outside, especially when I do ice climbing, because then I have super thick and big, bulky alpine boots. Then I open them up completely and have to leave them on the outside. I open them up because at night they will freeze and they can get rock hard or really hard, and then it can be painful or even possible to get your feet in the next morning. What I remove is the insole, because this already has got some moisture inside, and some boots even have like an inner boot or a removable tongue. And so everything which can be removed from the boot will be inside the sleeping bag, and overnight maybe it can dry on my body, or at least in the next morning it will be warm. These boots are relatively compact, so I can place them in the bottom area of my Bivy bag. For this you can also wrap them in the compression bag of your sleeping bag, for example, or any other bag you like. This will keep them warm and keep the moisture away from the sleeping system. Or when it's a breathable bag, you will get the moisture in your system, but the boots possibly are less wet in the morning. All right, that's it about the boots. Yeah, this is the reason why you sometimes have to choose the bigger Bivy bag, for example, or a longer Bivy bag, because then you have more space for your equipment. These will be inside the sleeping bag. Now talking about socks. Socks in the evening can be a bit wet. Depending on your body type, it can be a good thing to keep them on your feet and let them dry overnight. But this can be also really cold, so if you do this, maybe it's a good thing to have spare socks in reach, so at night when it's cold you can change them. Or maybe they will dry overnight. So I will leave them on. Okay, now when it comes to clothing, like the pants for example, this at least should be inside your Bivy bag, if not in your sleeping bag, but it also depends how wet it is. Yeah, because when it's wet, especially like uniforms, which are also made from cotton, they can freeze up, and the next day maybe it's impossible to step in. And when you have to get ready really fast, this can be a bad thing. So this will be my Bivy bag. Now what I have here is a thin merino underwear. I usually use thin merino underwear or merino underwear at all in winter because it also keeps a bit of the warming capabilities even when it's a bit sweaty or a bit wet. And I use this like a pajama, and I feel like this is more comfortable than sleeping inside the Bivy bag or the sleeping bag completely naked. So even under my insulation jacket I have got thin merino liner, and I really like this as a pajama. When this is a bit wet from sweat, I will also try to make it dry on my body, because when it's somewhere packed it will just freeze and not dry anymore. But when it's too wet, I want to stay warm at night, I want to have good sleep, I want to have good rest, then I will remove it and take on a dry one. Now with the insulation jacket. This will also be in the sleeping bag, because in the morning when you stand up, it's really good when your insulation is already warm. Because when it's outside, it can get covered in snow, it can get wet, and it's super cold in the morning. And when you have it in the sleeping bag, in the morning you can just throw it over and it's already warm. What you can also do, yeah, it's really hard to show right now on the camera, but when I'm in the sleeping bag, I will place this on my chest. This helps me seal the sleeping bag system, because then the air cannot come out of the head opening when I'm moving around. Some sleeping bags already come with like a heat collar. I'm not sure how the English word is, but this also prevents the warm air to get pumped outside of the sleeping bag. But with a jacket like this, you can also add some more sealing to keep the warm air inside. All right. Yeah, because of the microphone, I cannot really dive deep into my sleeping system. So let's talk about some points. When you sleep in a Bivy bag and in the sleeping bag, you have to choose if you breathe the cold air from outside and breathe out also to the outside, then all your moisture from breathing will be outside of the system. Yeah, the problem is you will breathe in cold air. For some people this can be painful, or you can get ill or sick. So it can be better if you breathe inside of your Bivy bag. But with all the moisture, your Bivy bag will be warm and will get wet. For 1 night or 2 nights, this maybe is not a problem, but if you sleep a lot of nights outside, your sleeping system can be really wet, and then it can be dangerous. So maybe it's the better choice to breathe outside. You can cover your face with like a mask or a buff or some fabric to breathe in the warm air and so on, but this can also freeze. So you have to try out what works for you. But my recommendation is better to breathe outside, but personal preference. Yeah. So that's it for the sleeping itself. Now some additional tips. If you have some batteries for a camera, for example, or so you have some electronic devices or spare batteries for your radio and so on, keep them in your sleeping bag, because when it's cold, it can be bad for batteries. And if you keep them on your body all the day and keep them warm all day long, it's better for the batteries. Protect them from some moisture, but keep them warm. Also have some water to drink inside your sleeping bag, because water outside can freeze, and then in the morning you have nothing to drink. When it's in the sleeping bag, it can stay liquid, and when you're thirsty at night, you can drink it. It can be also a good thing to have a bottle with a big opening, because at night, when you have to pee, you can use this as a pee bottle. But then, of course, make sure it's super sealed, it will not leak, and you will not accidentally drink it. Yeah, but it's also up to you. Make your experience and try it out. Yes. When you notice that the first night your sleeping system is not warm enough, you can use emergency blankets from your first aid kit, or like this emergency Bivy bag, or do like some survival tricks. Look for a better area to sleep. Eat a lot of food in the evening so your body can keep warm all night long. And if the insulation to the ground is not good enough, then collect some branches from trees nearby, place them underneath you. Just do some like bushcraft survival skills and improve your system. Good sleep and good rest is really important. All right, I hope this was not too much talking. I hope you liked the video. Make sure to also check out my other videos. I'm looking forward to be watched by you again. And leave in the comments, how do you sleep outside? And do you have any tips? Did I forget anything, or did I talk bullshit? Thanks for watching. Bye.